Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online Series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the previous episode, I featured a tournament-winning Kyurem White team, so we'll be playing a couple more matches with the team today. Kyurem White is a really interesting Pokemon in the Series 12. It's obviously really weak into Zacian, but this team enables it really well, and you've got a lot of good anti-Zacian to support it, and ultimately it just really allows Kyurem White to thrive, and I've been having a lot of fun with this Pokemon. So if you haven't seen the last episode, check it out in the description below, and thank you to the original creator, Ariana, for the team. Rental and Paste are both in the description below if you want to try out the team yourselves, and thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please share support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, kind of just a fun one, but I want to know what your favorite game to play at the moment is right now. I personally actually haven't really played anything outside of Sword and Shield, just doing VGC content, and I actually have not even started Legends Arceus, and so that's on my to-do list, but let me know yours in the comment section below, and let's get started. Alright, our first match of the day, and we are up against the Dialga, Zacian, Grimmsnarl, Rillaboom, Ditto, and Landorus. So normally when I see Grimmsnarl with these teams, I assume they have like Thunder Wave, Fake Tears, Fake Out. Ditto with Choice Scarf is pretty common right now in the format. So how do I deal with Dialga here? Especially with their support from Grimmsnarl. Could Helping Hand Max Quake with Whimsicott Kyurem. Amoonguss can redirect an attack away from the Dialga, which is valuable. Zacian's obviously not bad just for close combat into Dialga. I think I want Zacian, Amoonguss, Kyurem, and Whimsicott. I'm just trying to figure out in what order. Dialga's pretty scary here, honestly, because it hits our team for really, really good damage across the board. I think I'm going to go with Zacian and Amoonguss with Whimsicott and Kyurem in the back. I don't love leading the Whimsicott in this matchup because of potential Fake Out from Rillaboom and Grimmsnarl. Although I feel like a Rillaboom lead is a little bit unlikely here, but I feel like normally when I see Grimmsnarls with these Dialga compositions, they more often than not carry Fake Out. And I just don't want my Whimsicott to get like sniped on the first turn and just get nothing off. So they're going to go with Zacian and Grimmsnarl. Okay. Not bad for us, I'd argue. We both have our Zacians out. I obviously have Spore with the Amoonguss. I think turn 1, I'm honestly okay with just a Behemoth Blade and a Grimmsnarl and a Spore onto the Zacian. Could also consider substituting here, but getting rid of Grimmsnarl is really valuable in general here, I'd argue. So we'll see if Grimmsnarl has something like a Fake Out or a Taunt. Zacian can also get around this by potentially going for a substitute. But overall, I feel like we actually have a decent lead here because Amoonguss is okay against both Pokemon. The goal was to sweep with Kyurem in the late game, but the problem here is that Kyurem can get one-shot by both of my opponent's restricted Pokemon. And I do have a super effective Max Quick against both Zacian and Dialga, so we can retaliate back. Okay, so they're going to switch Zacian out into Ditto. Oh, okay. I like that play a lot on their end. It's going to allow them to copy my Amoonguss. Okay. Now I'm mainly curious on the item on that. And they are just going to go for a Fake Out onto Zacian. Okay, that's a really solid play by them. But the thing is, I honestly don't even mind that much because now you have like two really passive Pokemon out on the field. So like I'm actually down to just substitute right now and then just go for Spore onto the Grimmsnarl slot. Once I get substitute up, this Zacian is basically untouchable given the current two Pokemon out from my opponent. Do you outspeed me with Scary Face if you're like Scarf Amoonguss here? Okay, no. That was almost really scary. Yeah. And this just like highlights the problem when you have two Pokemon that are just really passive in general, right? In terms of damage output. Sub here really being the game changer. Okay, we've got Whimsicott and Kyurem in the back, so it's pretty easy for me to switch Amoonguss out. But the thing is, with my Amoonguss, I can keep fishing for Spores right now as well. So honestly, I'm down to just Behemoth Blade the Grimmsnarl and Spore the Grimmsnarl. Actually, if I were them, I would just switch out Ditto here. So I'm going to target Ditto. They're in a really weird spot right now. Okay, they're going to stay in with it, but that's okay. Like, as long as you stay in with the Amoonguss, or I should say the Ditto, you don't accomplish anything. Because you're not breaking my sub. you're basically just going to keep fishing for spores, essentially. But I'm in a super, like, good position right now. Yeah, it is Sash on the Grim. Okay. I could contemplate switching out this next turn, but I honestly don't feel the need to. Yep, and then just go for Spore, fishing for a switch. So, we're both going for Spores, but I think this works more in my favor, if anything. So, I'm down to just Behemoth Blade Ditto now. And I will Seed Bomb to get rid of Grimmsnarl. Behemoth Blade on the Ditto covers for it switching out into Zacian. Okay, they do manage to wake up. They will go for Fake Tears here. So, yeah, I think on these Dialga teams, Fake Tears, Scary Face, Fake Out is a little bit more common. But I don't really mind the Fake Tears on Amoonguss because I can just switch it out. Although, I guess I don't have a free switch into Dialga right now, which is kind of a problem. We actually just one-shot the Ditto there. Wow. Yeah, that was basically the... Amoonguss was probably the worst Pokemon for them to copy because of me having a substitute on Zacian. So, we're just going to get a double knockout here. And now they're going to go into the restricted Pokemon, which should be Dialga plus the Zacian. They probably have max Hailstorm. Like, even though we're up 4-2, this is still actually very far from over, especially with them getting that Fake Tears off. You know what I think I can do here? We can just go for a Rage Powder with the Amoonguss, because Zacian's going to attack first. We should survive a Behemoth Blade. I'll Sacred Sword into Dialga. Go for Rage Powder here. Because at this point, the only Pokemon that can Dynamax is obviously Dialga on their end. So, yeah, I'm honestly kind of surprised by them switching out Zacian in the beginning of the game. Because one thing they could have gone for was just, like, Fake Out into Amoonguss and Behemoth Blade. So, copying the Amoonguss there honestly didn't really give them anything. In fact, it gave me a pretty big advantage. Now, I can see why they went for it, because if I don't have Substitute on Zacian, then I'm actually in a pretty weird spot, where you are maybe able to just put me to sleep. But, yeah. The thing is, when you commit to copying the Amoonguss, then Grimmsnarl plus Amoonguss is just a duel that has no offense whatsoever. So it's like, maybe you get a Spore off, but then what do you do after that? You're essentially forced to switch out. And with my Amoonguss being out on the field in the beginning of the game, I can just pressure with Spore each turn, which obviously is good for us. So... Dialga is going to commit the max here. With Rage Powder, essentially the goal was to sacrifice Amoonguss, but then get a free switch into Whimsicott, then I could just Tailwind. Okay, they don't go for Sub. Sub on Zacian was the one thing I was worried about, because you could go like Sub into Hailstorm. You could even Steel Spike here, actually. A lot of different plays you could go for. And that actually one-shots us. Wow, was that a crit? Yeah, I was going to say, you don't KO there without a crit. But that's fine, because the thing is now, okay, they're going to go for Steel Spike. Yep. Oh, I guess one thing that is kind of awkward is the fact that my Zacian is Scary Faced right now. That crit is a little bit annoying because without it, we'd still have a substitute up. Can't really switch out Zacian either, which is actually quite scary. They're going to be Life Orb. Yep. We're going to get Sacred Sword off. Okay, cool. I think then with this, it's pretty clear cut. We just bring out Whimsicott. I'm going to protect the Zacian to play around a Speed Tie on Zacians because... with the Tailwind, it will essentially negate the Scary Face. And then what that allows me to do is if you KO Whimsicott, I just get a free switch into Kira, max that, and then we should win from there. So I'm fine going for a Tailwind and a Protect in this position. I guess my one fear is them getting a Special Defense boost via Max Quake. If you get a Special Defense boost, then I'm not sure Kiram actually gets the KO. So we'll see. Either way, though, I don't think I've really seen Dialga plus Zacian, partially because, you know, they both have Steel typing, so that's pretty interesting. Sub on Zacian here into Hailstorm on Whimsicott would also be pretty bad for us to run into here, but we're not going to go for it. Just Blade into Zacian. Okay, and just Steel Spike. That's fine. Whimsicott will survive. The only fear here is that our Zacian's Speed Tie. Yeah, I would have preferred to get a free switch in there. But I think the thing is, the end game looks pretty good for Kiram one way or another since we got that Tailwind up. So I'm willing to Behemoth Blade here into Zacian. I mean, if I win a potential Speed Tie, if I were my opponent, like, you can just, you know, target both Pokemon here. But what I can do is Taunt into Zacian. Yeah, to prevent them from protecting. So I'm down to Sacred Sword Dialga here and then Taunt into Zacian, because with Taunt, then Kiram can come out and just one-shot with Max Quake, and you can't protect or sub in front of that. And if we win the Speed Tie on Zacians here, potential Speed Tie, just win the game outright, I think, immediately. Okay, and we attack first. Nice. And this is the beauty of Sacred Sword. It's like it ignores all the defense boosts anyway, making the game a lot easier for us. But once again, like when you're using Kyurem White, you have to be very careful about how you set it up, right? Because in this matchup, like I can't afford to, like, even if I Dynamax Kyurem and my opponent doesn't have a Dynamax, if the Zacian outspeeds me, they will just one-shot me. And so that's what makes the, you know, Kyurem Zacian dynamic kind of weird, but this team supports it as well as possible because you've got Tailwind, you've got Redirection, you've got Incineroar for Intimidate, you've got Max Airstream from Thundurus as well, and you've got Max Speed Zacian, so at worst you speed tie against opposing Zacians. So now we can just bring out Kyurem, and we can just go for Dynamax, Max Quake, and we also have Helping Hand here. They're taunted, Tailwind is up. There's no way you can outspeed us. So ultimately, I think Amoonguss was the MVP of this in the early game because my opponent just didn't have a great way to play around with Spores, and they didn't also put on very much pressure against Amoonguss in the beginning of the game. I was expecting Grimmsnarl plus Dialga, and I was kind of surprised my opponent didn't lead with that because I feel like I really had no like solid answer into it. Zacian Amoonguss was my best bet because I could go for Redirection into like a Behemoth Blade, but as you saw, they also had Focus Sash on Grimmsnarl, so yeah, I think if they just led Grim plus Dialga, I would have been in a lot of trouble in this game, but Kyurem here will deliver the finishing blow with Max Quake, and that should one-shot Zacian with Life Orb. Beautiful. Dialga, though, I think definitely restricted that people are sleepy on a little bit right now, and I think like I've always been impressed by it in Sword and Shield in the restricted formats because it has just really good offensive coverage, and you can increase both your defense and special defense via Max Quake and Max Steel Spike, right? So Dialga is one of those Pokemon that just gets access to a lot of powerful attacks. You can run like Max Lightning, Max Hailstorm, Max Quake, Max Steel Spike, Max Whirlwind. Those are all really, really powerful for you. But ultimately, the Amoonguss lead just gave us a really big advantage, and yeah, I mean, Amoonguss, even if it just gets a single Spore off in this format, is such a big deal because it just completely stops the momentum from your opponent. And so, yeah, I think if my opponent had just gone Grim, Dialga with Ditto and Zacian in the back, things may have been a little bit tougher for us, but works out okay, so let's just keep things going. Second match here, we've got Palkia plus Calyrex Ice Rider with Thundurus, Amoonguss, Entei, and Indeedee. This is a really cool team. I think, you know, right now in early Series 12, you're going to see a lot of people default to just like Zacian plus another restricted, but I think there's so much room for creativity in this format, and there's a lot, you know, of potential outside of just using Zacian as well. That being said, Zacian is really, really powerful, right? So it makes sense that it's on so many compositions, but this one's looking pretty scary because I don't have Max Whirlwind on the Kyurem. They've got a Trick Room mode. Like, both of their restricted Pokemon can Trick Room. Huh. Yeah, I really don't know how to approach this one. If I were them, I'd probably angle towards setting up Trick Room, honestly. I'm actually intrigued by the idea of leading Amoonguss just to get a Spore off immediately. I don't even know who we want to Dynamax in this game. Like, I don't think it's Thundurus, so it's probably just Kyurem. Kyurem plus Amoonguss with Zacian in the back is interesting. I guess I have Taunt on Whimsicott, but they have Indeedee for Psychic Terrain. So I'm going to go with Incineroar because it gives me a better matchup against their Calyrex and Amoonguss. But this is a really cool team, and honestly, not a very good matchup for us in my opinion. So we'll see how it plays out. I think what makes this really scary is that my Kyurem just can't really one-shot the restricted mons. And if their restricted mons are Dynamax, I don't even know if we can two-shot them because we don't have Max Whirlwind. Yeah, so they go with Palkia and Indeedee. This is what I was going to say, right? If I lead Whimsicott here with the Psychic Terrain up, I just actually really can't do very much at all with Whimsicott. Okay, so they go with Indeedee plus Palkia. I have Spore. They could just Max Whirlwind. I'm okay maxing Kyurem and going for a Max Quake, I think, into a Spore. That's what I'm leaning towards right now. So Spore, Palkia, Dynamax, and Quake. Because the Quake gives us a special defense boost. And with that boost, I think I can survive with either Pokemon. Unless they go for Helping Hand with Indeedee into a Max Whirlwind on a Kyurem. But that's really risky. Because you would just lose to a Follow Me into a Max Whirlwind on your Palkia. But maybe Palkia's like really defensive here. So maybe they're willing to play a little bit more, you know, aggressively. Like the play I just mentioned. Okay, they don't max. Yep, they go for Follow Me, okay. This makes me think they're going for the Trick Room route, which honestly I'm okay with because I have this Amoonguss out. I'm just nervous now that they're Goggles, potentially, on Indeedee, because I don't think Quake one-shots them. But the idea was not to get a one-hit KO, there was to get a special defense boost. Could have gone for Hailstorm, I guess, into Spore as well, but I didn't know if that would actually KO, and like Indeedee could be sashed in that position, but okay. They're going to be Citrus. Honestly, I'm okay with that. Yeah, they're going to go for a Trick Room. I mean, Hailstorm may have just one-shot Indeedee, so Hailstorm into Spore may have just been the better play, honestly. But the thing is, like, now you set up Trick Room, but my Amoonguss just outspeeds everything that you have under Trick Room. So I can just Spore the Palkia slot now with little consequence. Spore Palkia, and I'm down to just go for another Max Quake here, further increase my special defense. I think today's episode just highlights how good Amoonguss can still be in this format. Like, you know, there's so many things to worry about in terms of super effective damage, but the Cobra Berry allows me to play with a lot more confidence. Okay, they actually switch Indeedee out immediately into their own Amoonguss, okay. That was a missed opportunity to go for a Max Hailstorm then, because if I put that Amoonguss, or if I Hailstorm there, I actually think there's very little my opponent can do from that spot. The problem is now my opponent can go for a Spore onto my Kyurem. It's really good damage from Quake, but that was probably a better opportunity to go for a Hailstorm, because I don't really need the special defense when I'm getting Spore off, and it would punish an Amoonguss switching really heavily there. So, kind of regret that, but it happens. Okay. Got 3 turns of Trick Room left, plus 2 Spadef. I'm down to Seed Bomb Palkia here. And Max Guard. The idea right now is that my opponent has very little to actually deal with my Amoonguss, and I've got Safety Goggles Instant in the back as well, so I can just pivot out my Kyurem into Instant this next turn, and just prevent them from putting anything to sleep. Okay, they're Sporting to Protect. Palkia does manage to wake up, and they're going to go for Spatial Rend, but this is pretty awkward for them because now I'm just going to put them back to sleep. I could even, like, let them put my Kyurem to sleep right now. That's something else to debate about. Because there's only 2 turns of Trick Room left. And I'm at plus 2 special defense. Honestly, here I am down to stay in. And I'll freeze dry the Amoonguss. They just have no safe switching into Spore right now, right? And I actually do have a safe switch into Spore, but in this position I actually don't mind burning sleep turns because I've got these increased stages of special defense with both Pokemon. What's really awkward for my opponent is, like, I think their team angles to set up Calyrex Ice Rider under Trick Room, but my Amoonguss just counteracts that. So their best way around what I led here was probably leading, like, Calyrex plus Amoonguss maybe, because then it's like, your Calyrex pressures my Amoonguss with Max Hailstorm immediately, and then your Amoonguss can potentially pressure me with Spore, or Indeedee plus Calyrex. I think that could work as well. One other thing I didn't talk about yet is when you see Indeedee plus Calyrex, there is a decent chance Calyrex is actually running a Psychic type attack, so it's good to keep that in mind. So it's just Battle of the Amoonguss right now as we trade Spores. Okay. But like I said, I'm at plus 2 special defense. I really don't mind that too much. This turn is interesting. So last turn of Trick Room, right? Yeah. The one thing I'm nervous about is Palkia getting a quick wake up and then also critting me with Spatial Rend, since Spatial Rend does have a higher crit ratio. I think I'm down to fish for them switching out Amoonguss, because their Amoonguss really isn't doing very much for them right now. I'll just freeze dry here. Yep, they switch out. Cool. If that's Calyrex Ice coming in, it's a disaster for them, unless they're Lumburied. But they switch in. Beautiful. This episode just highlights how good Amoonguss can still be, and this is why, like, I think I really value having Safety Goggles or Lumberry. That or Taunt, for example, because a single Spore just goes such a long way. Palkia stays asleep as well, which is quite nice. Kyurem also stays asleep. Okay. Everything on the field is sleeping right now, except for Amoonguss. Let's see. What do we want to do here? I've barely even taken damage right now. They haven't Dynamax yet, though, so that's, like, the one thing to cover for. I could switch Amoonguss here out into Incineroar to get an Intimidate off against them. Here, I don't really mind going for a Rage Powder this turn, I think, and Freeze Dry, because you don't have a switch into Freeze Dry at this point. They're going to switch Palkia out, yeah, sure. Indeedee? Okay. That makes sense to me. Yeah, I mean, they're going to need to wake up sooner than later in order to have a chance of winning this game. I think if Kyurem wakes up here, they're going to be in really bad shape. We've already taken 2 turns of sleep. Okay, nice. Here manages to wake up. We're going to get the Life Orb Freeze Dry off. Ooh, does not KO Indeedee. Okay. Calyrex will take a turn of sleep. That actually makes things a little bit scarier here, because I think I actually want to switch out immediately into Incineroar then to get the Intimidate off. And Freeze Dry onto Indeedee here is fine. This is the only downside of Freeze Dry. It's like, you know, so many of the regular attacks that you use that take advantage of your typing and same type attack bonus are like, you know, 80 base power or 90 base power, but Freeze Dry is actually a little bit weaker. It's obviously really good to cover for the water type Pokemon and to hit those for super effective, but the thing is, if we knock out Indeedee there, you just have to bring out Amoonguss, right, or the Palkia, and both of those just get one shot by Freeze Dry. Basically, this game highlights how, like, Amoonguss itself can be really good against Trick Room compositions, because it's like, we just outsped my opponent's entire team under Trick Room. Oh, they're actually White Herb Cali, okay. So Indeedee takes sleep. Not the most exciting episode, I know, in terms of just Amoonguss spamming Spore, but this is why it's really important to have anti-sleep measures in the format, and that's exactly why Incin on this team, for example, has safety goggles. Okay, they will manage to wake up and get a Glacial Lance off, but that's okay with me. It's close to KOing Kyurem there, actually. Although I suppose if you knock me out, then I can just go into Zacian. I have one more attack off left with Kyurem at this point, basically. I'm mainly curious how fast their Calyrex Ice Rider is. Okay. Bring Amoonguss out. It's pretty free for them to protect Amoonguss. I mean, you can Max Quake Incineroar. That wouldn't really get you too far, though, in my opinion. Okay, I'm down to just Parting Shot here, and then Freeze Dry into Amoonguss. They could still win this for sure, though, especially with the pressure of Trick Room. Okay, so they're going to commit the Dynamax here. Commit the Dynamax. I would think you KO the Incineroar, but the thing is, then the Zacian just absolutely demolishes you with Behemoth Blade. Okay. And this also means you're not getting Trick Room up, which actually is smart for them, because I think their first Trick Room actually very much worked against them. Protect? Yeah. That Protect makes sense. I might as well just target into that slot anyway. We'll get the Freeze Dry off here. It won't actually go through, so I would expect Calyrex to try to target the Kyurem, but Incin is faster than Calyrex, which is quite nice, so it allows me to get this Intimidate off, or I should say Parting Shot off, and allows me to cycle back in for an Intimidate later on as well. So I think in this position, I'd rather go out into Amoonguss first, because I don't want to risk switching in Zacian and letting the Zacian just get knocked out. And it's like, if they KO Kyurem here, they're going for Quake. That makes me think they're targeting the Incin slot. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. The downside here is that their Amoonguss does get a special defense boost. So now I'm curious, maybe can you survive a Freeze Dry? I actually would expect it to, honestly. Amoonguss switching out back into Incineroar here is really obvious. So I could see them Quaking the Amoonguss slot. So honestly here, I'm actually going to just protect Amoonguss and then Freeze Dry into their Amoonguss. The idea behind this play is I will knock myself out. Ooh, this is smart. I like that. Sacrifice Palkia to conserve your Amoonguss. I think that's smart. Because if you lose Amoonguss there, you just lose your redirection support for the game, and that makes it really tough to win. But the dynamic of using Calyrex Ice Rider is very similar to Kyurem, where it's like you still get absolutely demolished by Zacian, so you have to play so flawlessly around it. And Kyurem got so much value for us in this game, as well as Amoonguss, just spamming Freeze Dry into everything. So Kyurem's going to faint there, but it has done more than I've asked for it to, honestly. Yeah, they went for Quake, fishing for the instant switch in. The idea here is I just don't want to like let them accelerate the pace of the battle, and Protector is always really safe. There's basically no way around the play that I made this last turn, I think, other than maybe opting for a double Protect with the Amoonguss and then Quaking to try to KO the Palkia. So now we know they're going to bring their Amoonguss back into the game. I'm Safety Goggles here on Incineroar. They're already at -1. If I bring out Zacian here, I can just go for Rage Powder with Amoonguss, but I don't know if Behemoth Blade actually KOs their Amoonguss, which is my main fear. I do have Sub as well. If I bring in Incineroar, I don't think a Max Quake KOs us, and I'm Safety Goggles, so okay. I think I'm down to just bring Incin out. I think the one thing to be cautious of is parting shot and then switching in my Zacian and then letting that actually get hit by a Spore. You're at -2 attack right now. And because I'm Goggles here, I'm down to just Spore and a Calyrex and just Flare Blitz into the Amoonguss. Because then I'll just have the Zacian in the end game, right? And then Zacian by itself can just win. So I'm not going to go for Parting Shot because I actually think that's the one way I can throw this game right now. Flare Blitz actually almost just KOs Amoonguss by itself, which is quite nice. Ooh, Rocky Helmet. I haven't seen that in a while. Okay. So they do go for Hailstorm, but this is exactly where the Goggles is so huge, right? It just denies my opponent from getting a Spore off onto Incineroar. And if you can't Spore the Incineroar, then we should be in a very, very nice spot. Because then I can just bring out Zacian and then go from there. This game's not over, though. I think it's still possible to win for my opponent with you pressuring with Trick Room with Calyrex. I wouldn't be surprised if they have Pollen Puff as well, but yeah. Just as I was saying, how it's really important to have anti-sleep in this format. This is exactly why Instant on this team has Safety Goggles. So now I'll bring out Zacian. From my opponent's perspective, you have a bunch of plays you can make. The first one is Protect Calyrex and Spore onto Amoonguss. The second is Rage Powder Trick Room. The third is Protect Amoonguss. I'm only really losing to a crit at this point anyway, right? Because, like, I'm down to just Behemoth Blade into Calyrex. They could Rage Powder into Trick Room, right? Or they could Protect Amoonguss. I have Sub here as well. If I were them, I'd actually Protect Amoonguss and Trick Room with Calyrex right now. Okay. The main thing here is I actually don't want to activate Weakness Policy. That play would actually end up activating Policy, though. Okay, yeah, they go for Protect on Amoonguss. I don't know if I love that play I made this last turn. If they went Rage Powder Trick Room, I would get the KO. And then I would also get the Darkest Lariat off. I'd get the KO onto Amoonguss. I'd get the Lariat off, but that would activate Policy. But I would still win in that position, because I can just Flare Blitz to KO you, or Darkest Lariat to KO you the next turn. I don't know, though, because I felt like my opponent had no damage output anymore, thanks to the Intimidates and the Parting Shots. So I actually would have preferred to go for anything else with Incineroar there. Because there are a bunch of different angles they could go for there, and they were just basically going for the Hail Mary, like try to set up Trick Room while also protecting Amoonguss and then Spore Zacian under Trick Room, which I think makes a lot of sense. For that reason, I wanted to make sure that I covered for both Amoonguss protecting as well as Zacian protecting in that position, or Calyrex protecting in that position. But today's episode just highlights how good Amoonguss can be, and the Safety Goggles on the Incineroar here makes all the difference as well, right? Where it's like, you can see exactly why having Anti-Sleep can be really valuable. And the early Amoonguss lead paired with Kyurem boosting its special defense just made things a lot easier. I think from my opponent's perspective, them setting up Trick Room turn 1 with Palkia actually made things a lot tougher for them. So like they could have just fished for damage immediately with like Spatial Rens. But instead, by setting up Trick Room, they basically couldn't actually even get anything off under Trick Room. And I was able to just, you know, use Spore consistently while protecting Kyurem thanks to Rage Powder as well. So yeah, really interesting teams though that we've gone up against today. So let's look for one more. All right, last one here, and we're actually up against rank number 25, and oh boy, I feel like we're in for a doozy here. They've got Dialga, Zacian, Ditto, Porygon 2, Sableye, Gothitelle. This is a nightmare. They've got a lot of ally switch users. I wouldn't be surprised if Gothitelle and Porygon are both carrying it. Ditto's a nightmare. It's got Quash. We're up against Dialga plus Zacian again, which is really interesting. Would not have expected to fight this restricted duel twice, but cool to see this team. Man, what do we even do? Sableye is what actually really concerns me. I mean, honestly, everything concerns me with my opponent's team. At least Whimsicott is Taunt, so I'm okay leading that. I'm thinking Whimsicott, Zacian, Kyurem, Amoonguss. I don't even know if Amoonguss is that valuable. I mean, it does give me redirection for one turn. It's been so good for us today. I'm down to bring it, but I think there's a lot that can go wrong in this matchup. Partially because like I think my opponent's team is very good, especially in best of one, because there's so many moves that I'm basically left guessing whether or not my opponent, you know, has it or not. So like ally switch on Porygon, ally switch on Gothitelle, you know, Ditto, guessing the item on that's difficult. Dialga I would think is like Life Orb. I guess both of them are, you know, just max attack / max special attack and max speed. Referring to Dialga and Zacian. We're gonna go with Dialga and Goth. Okay. I mean, you would think Gothitelle has Fake Out here, right? Oh. Do I have a safe play to make on turn 1? They could Fake Out, they could Helping Hand, Dialga can max Hailstorm. They could just Fake Out max Steel Spike Zacian. The play I lean towards is like Taunt onto Gothitelle and Protect with Zacian. Part of me wants to be really aggressive and just attack immediately. Got Kirim and Amoonguss in the back. But the Sacred Sword isn't going to KO Dialga even if I Helping Hand anyway, so I think turn 1 I am just going to Taunt and Protect, but I wouldn't be surprised if they Fake Out into Whimsicott and like double up into it. Yep, so there's the Dynamax. I mean, I don't have a substantially better lead against this, to be honest. I guess it could be Amoonguss if I like am confident like Dialga doesn't want like have max Hailstorm. But I can't be confident in that. I actually think I'd be like I like running max Hailstorm on Dialga personally. So yeah, I think God plus Dialga as a duo that is just really powerful because you trap them in. Okay. Oh boy, and it begins. Well, could be worse, I guess. They didn't go for a Fake Out. I expect Hailstorm or Steel Spike here. Yeah, Hailstorm and a Whimsicott. That's a complete waste of a Taunt at the end of the day, too, which is so frustrating. Ugh. It's like, even if I knew they had Ally Switch, I'd expected it coming into this battle. What can I really do? At least we know now Dialga can't, like, Max Guard, but I don't know if that really gets us anywhere, to be honest. Okay, I can bring in Amoonguss now. I can already see it. Like, I'm gonna get wrecked. I'm getting wrecked by this team, so I'm eager to for the next. I got wrecked by this team, so I had to try it out episode. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a safe play to make on turn 1, right? Yeah, I think in this matchup we just have to basically make some big risks, or take some big risks. You know my Zacian protected now. I wouldn't be surprised if they went like Helping Hand plus Steel Spike on a Zacian. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to win this game by playing safe, so I'm just going to sub and Spore and see if they maybe get a little bit greedy and ignore the Amoonguss for a turn. No Ally Switch, no Helping Hand either. I'll play that? Okay. Oh, man, if it's foul play, it's just going to break my sub on Zacian as well, probably. I could have protected Amoonguss there and subbed, actually. That may have been my best play. At least stalled the turn at their Dynamax. Okay, they go for Hypnosis, so that actually maybe gives us a fighting shot here. I just don't have speed control, so the thing is I still get wrecked by the Zacian that they have in the back, and that's also not good for me, is it? Yeah. If I were my opponent now, I'd actually double up onto the Dialga, or sorry, the Zacian slot. I assume they have Zacian plus Ditto in the back. I mean, that makes this a complete nightmare. Gothitelle can still Ally Switch. Okay, I'm gonna Max Guard. It's like knocking out Gothitelle doesn't even help me that much. I'm gonna Max Guard Behemoth Blade Dialga. The reason why I don't want to KO Gothitelle right now is because if I do, it just gives my opponent a free switch into Zacian, and that's obviously not good for us. This is the problem with Kyurem, right? Where it's like, yeah, even Dynamaxed, I still get wrecked by Zacian. It's not like a lot of other restricted. It's like, okay, by Dynamaxing, you essentially extend your lifeline because you're doubling your health, but Behemoth Blade, just obviously really good against Kyurem here. So it's not looking good, especially because I didn't set up a Tailwind in this game. Okay, they don't go for an ally switch. I mean, that's fine. I'm just worried about, like, Steel Spike into Hypnosis double up onto Zacian, but you also have to hit Hypnosis in that position, right? Okay. Ah, well done. They have played around every single Protect I've had in this game, essentially. Yeah, they played this game really well. I knew this wasn't going to be easy just from team preview because I don't think we have the best restricted matchup, and then their team also just has a lot of like variance-inducing variables for a best-of-1 game. So let's see if they Hypnosis Zacian as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Okay, they go for it. Okay, they go into Kyurem. I mean, I'd argue this gives us a slightly fighting chance, but I think they're going to have Ditto in the back, and with Ditto, you just will have double Zacian to end this game with. Meaning I needed to Tailwind instead of taunting. But it's like, I also don't love Tailwinding on turn 1, because like, what if they actually go for a Trick Room? That would be no fun. Yeah, I'm just gonna Blade Dialga. And Hailstorm the other slot. Covers for Ally Switch. They don't go for Ally Switch, okay. So it's like, I'll pick up a double KO, but at what cost, right? Yeah. The early game was just abysmal for me. But I didn't have substantially better lead either. Dynamax Dialga is just such a big threat, especially with Gothitelle support with, Fake Out. And, oh, we don't get the knockout there. Okay. And they hit Hypnosis. That's really bad. I mean, that's going to end the game. But that makes sense, yeah, because Gothitelle had that special defense boost via Max Quake. Okay. How would I play this any better? Especially considering a turn 1 ally switch from Gothitelle while also covering for going for Fake Out and Hypnosis on turn 1. I really don't know. Okay, I could still win this game if I crit Blade. So we'll go for Max card here. That obviously doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to read into ally switch just because I don't think Goth has anything better to do. Oh, they actually just switch out. Yeah, it was Ditto. I think because they had Ditto in the back, like, I just really don't see how I ever win this game. Unless they protected Zacian this turn. Actually, that's the one thing that could give us a shot. 3 Zacians out on the field right now. Yeah, and they're not trying to protect Zacian, so that should be a good game. I'm assuming they made that play because there's Scarf on their Zacian. Otherwise, that's actually... Or Scarf on their Ditto. Otherwise, it's a little bit risky. Yeah, we one-shot them. Oh, it's still winnable, actually, if you targeted Kyurem here rather than Zacian. You should always target Zacian, because Kyurem's not a threat at this point. And, like, you'll always KO it, whereas you're not at risk of me outspeeding and KOing you. And, yep, they correctly target Zacian. Okay, well played. Turn 1 ally switch just negated my taunt. Whimsicott was literally useless for me, unfortunately, in this game. Had I gone for Tailwind, at least I would have pressured by outspeeding them. And then if I had gotten into Tailwind up, I would have been more willing to just attack aggressively with Kyurem here. Just like I didn't want to lose to an ally switch into a Max Wormwind. But this is a matchup where we have to take risks because the restricted matchup already isn't great, and Gothitelle is just such a tough Pokemon to deal with. The problem is I have no good answer into Gothitelle plus Dialga, because Dialga one-shots almost everything I can bring. Maybe it's Incineroar, but they have Max Quake as well, so yeah. This was just one in which, like, I think we have to play really well in order to win. We don't have a matchup advantage, and they have a lot of really scary sets as well, like the Gothitelle. So I don't mind losing a game like that, especially because, yeah, it's like the ally switch on turn 1 is just really hard to cover for, as well as Fake Out and Hypnosis. It's like covering for all 3 moves that Gothitelle can go for in that position is honestly quite difficult. So, yeah. But either way, though, I think like a team like that is incredibly deadly, especially in best of 1. And it's like really tough to make predictions against it while also making plays that cover for every option, especially with the restricted duel that we have here, right? Because it's like Dialga can one-shot both of my restricted mons, whereas I can't one-shot their Dialga with either of my restricted mons. And so, yeah, it's cool to see Dialga pop a little bit more, honestly, because I think this, like, I really like some of the other steel types that aren't Zacian, like Dialga and Solgaleo. So I'm glad to see them get more usage because I think they're both really, really good. So, yeah. That's going to be it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Kyurem White, I'm honestly really impressed by and have had a really fun time with it. I think this team supports it as well as I've seen any team support, restricted that's not in that top 5 right now. So even though the Zacian matchups can be difficult, we played primarily Zacian teams in both this episode and the previous one and generally found ways to win, right? And that's because the team enables Kyurem really, really well. So yeah. Thank you so much as always for watching. Thank you to Ariana, the original creator for the team. Once again, feel free to try it out yourself. Details are in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right. Peace.